A 0.71 times magnifier for Super 35 sensors? Yeah, that's nice, but I want to know, what happens when I put this puppy on a full-frame Canon R5? One of my favorite things about the entire RF mount system from Canon is that Canon has been awesome and given us incredible and amazing EF to RF adapters. I mean, the adapters that come from Canon, I've just been so happy to see that Canon did not hold back or cripple the old lenses in any way, shape, or form, because the adapters have been dope, to say the least. Now, there's one adapter that came out last year that was designed specifically for the Canon C70, which is a Super 35 sensor. And that is this. This is the Canon EOS R 0.71 times Canon mount adapter. And what this does, this is designed to fit on your Super 35 lens, and it basically increases the field of view by 0.71 times and lets you put full frame lenses on Super 35 sensors. And this thing is great because one of the things it does is just adds a really cool wider field of view on a Super 35. And Super 35 is fine. It's been an industry standard for years, but I love the full frame look. And I think there's a lot of people out there that do like the full frame look. And what this does, this lets you get a really nice halfway point between the really cropped Super 35 look and the full frame look that we have. So this adapter is really cool. And I've been dying to get my hands on one. Now, not only does this increase your field of view by 0.71 times, it also increases the maximum aperture by 1 stop. So it makes your lenses that you have faster. And the more important thing, because it is from Canon, it has all the full electrical context on there. So your autofocus will still work on it, and you'll get all your metadata and be able to communicate with the camera. So this is a really, really awesome converter, especially if you are a Super 35 shooter and want to get that full frame look. Now the question comes to this. Why would you need a 0.71x converter designed for a Super 35 sensor on the full frame Canon R5? And it actually comes down to the power of the crop mode on the Canon R5. Now, if you know anything about the crop mode in the Canon R5, it comes with a couple of very distinct advantages to it. The first one is this. The R5, when you're shooting in crop mode, you actually get a clearer, crisper picture because it downsamples it than you do in standard 4K. As a matter of fact, the cropped 4K on the R5 actually rivals the quality of a 4K HQ on the Canon R5, which is downsampled from an 8K sensor. So the 4K cropped is really, really amazing because it is such a beautiful image, and more importantly, it never overheats. There is no overheat issues in 4K cropped. If you shoot 4K cropped, you will get a crisp, nice image without any danger of overheating. I've used crop 4K many, many times when I'm doing long interviews. I've gone hours on it and never had a problem with it cropping. The other big benefit about having crop mode on the R5, believe it or not, is if you're interested in raw recording. Now, as it stands right now, if you put your camera in crop mode on RAW, it'll export a 5K RAW signal to both the Ninja 5 and the 5 Plus. You don't need a 5 Plus to get a 5K RAW on your Ninja 5. What's awesome about this is you get that beautiful raw footage that gives you more flexibility in post, and it's not that gigantic 8K file. It's actually 5K RAW. Now, the problem you have right now is when you do crop an image, you lose a ton of your field of view by cropping inside the Canon R5. And this little puppy really minimizes that problem by giving you most of your field of view back. So it's a really interesting premise. How does it work? Does this actually give us enough of our image back to make it workable on a full frame Canon R5? Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to jump outside with this camera real quick and do a quick test, and let's see how this does in the real world. So yeah, let's go outside. Okay, so I'm out here now with the Canon R5, and just to kind of show what the FOV looks like with this 0.71x extender on there. Now, as you can see right here, I have just a 16 to 35 millimeter lens on my Canon R5. And as you can see, it's a standard FOV of what we would expect in our Canon R5. So what I want to do now is put it on a crop mode to show what the crop natively does on the Canon R5. So we'll come over here, put on cropping. So there you go. You can see just how much field of view we lose on the Canon R5 when we punch in. Okay, so I've put the 0.71x extender here on the Canon full frame R5, and the first thing you'll notice is you do get, when you put it on there, it does fit. You can put your lens on there, but you will see a warning that says your lens accessory may not work properly because it's not supported by the camera firmware. Because like I said, this was designed for the C70. It is not designed for full frame cameras. Please see lens accessory for details, blah, 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 blah. However, it does work. If I hit OK, you will see that I actually have a field of view there. Now, the key here is if you look in a full frame mode, this is in full frame on the Canon R5, I have obvious vignetting there on my camera. That's to be expected. This is not designed for full frame cameras. So that vignetting you see there is to be expected. But what we really need to know on is we're using this for the crop function of the Canon R5. So let's go ahead and come here to the crop and put the movie cropping on. And boom, right there, what you see is a much wider field of view than you get in that crop mode. It's not the full frame sensor. You still don't get the full frame, but what's great about this is it really gives you a much closer feel than you lose in that crop. I just feel like you lose so much FOV in the crop. And this lets me kind of have that happy middle ground where I feel like I can get all the benefits of cropping the Canon R5 without losing the field of view and that full frame thing that I really like. It's a good compromise. And I just think it's one of those things you have to see in the camera to kind of see how it works. So let's go back in the studio because I'm really, really cold right now. Okay, so there you go. That is pretty awesome. I was really blown away by the test of that in the field. And as far as I can see, there is no way around it. This is a major video enhancement for the Canon R5 because this is yet one more solution to the overheat issues that come with the camera. Now, this doesn't give you that entire full frame view, but it gives you so much of it back that I really feel very comfortable now working in crop mode on the Canon R5 with this because I can still get so close to that full frame view. And that little bit of compromise is worth it to me not to stress over the overheating. I wasn't willing to compromise on the crop. Sometimes there's so many things I like to shoot, that crop was not worth it to me. I'd rather sweat the camera overheating. But now with this little puppy, I don't have to worry about it. I can literally shoot. I have a little bit of a crop, but I can still work with it. It works much more in my artistic sensibility, and I never have to sweat the camera overheating. So this is a great solution if you are a Canon R5 shooter and want to be able to maybe get it and not have to worry about doing long shoots and overheating. I was really impressed with this 0.71 times magnifier. The other thing that I think is just great about it is this lets me get manageable RAW files. I mean, yeah, it's cool to shoot 8K RAW. I did get an Ninja 5 Plus last year at the end of the year, but the files are so huge, it's so unmanageable. And honestly, I would much prefer to work with a 5K RAW file at this stage than an 8K RAW. I don't necessarily need all that resolution, but I do like having the flexibility of RAW. Being able to get 5K RAW files instead of 8K that are so much more manageable, man, it's just one more little tool that, in my opinion, makes the Canon R5 even more interesting and more exciting. Anyway, guys, I'd love to know what you think about this. I thought this was super awesome. I was really excited to see it, and I haven't really been able to see that many people do anything on this with the Canon R5. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Please leave me any comments down below. And yeah, go out there, keep on shooting, and yeah, I'll talk to you soon.